You already know that feeling. That 2 p.m. slump where your brain just stops working. You're sitting at your desk, staring at something you've read 4 times and the words still don't make sense. Your body feels heavy. Your thoughts feel slow. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're wondering if something is actually wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. But something is wrong with what you've been eating. And before we go any deeper, there's a program linked in the description below that has already helped thousands of people completely transform their mental clarity and energy. Most people scroll past it. Most people think they'll come back to it later. And most people are still dealing with the same brain fog 6 months from now. But that's not you. Keep watching and you'll understand exactly why. Now let's talk about what's actually happening inside your brain when you eat processed snacks. And I mean really happening, at a level most people never get to hear explained in a way that actually makes sense. Your brain is the most energy-hungry organ in your entire body. It uses about 20% of everything you consume, even though it only makes up about 2% of your body weight. Think about that. Such a small thing demanding so much, and it is incredibly sensitive to what you feed it. Not somewhat sensitive, extraordinarily sensitive. The kind of sensitive where a single bad meal can shift your mood, your memory, your focus, and your decision-making within hours. Now picture this. You grab a bag of chips, or a handful of crackers, or one of those brightly colored snack bars at the gas station, because you're hungry and it's convenient. It happens to everyone. It happened to me. It happens to some of the most successful, health-conscious people you'd ever meet. Because these snacks are not designed to satisfy you. They are engineered in laboratories by teams of food scientists whose entire job is to make you physically unable to stop eating them. That is not an exaggeration. There are people with advanced degrees in neuroscience and flavor chemistry whose full-time career is figuring out the exact combination of salt, fat, and sugar that bypasses your brain's natural fullness signals and triggers something called a bliss point, a sensory experience that makes your brain light up like a firework and then go dark, craving the next hit. Here is where it starts to get really uncomfortable. That light-up moment you feel when you eat something like that is dopamine, your brain's reward chemical, the same chemical involved in motivation, learning, and pleasure. When it fires over and over again in response to hyper-stimulating junk food, your brain does something chilling. It starts to downregulate. It reduces its own sensitivity to dopamine, because it's being flooded too often. What that means in your real daily life is this. Things that used to feel satisfying start to feel flat. A healthy meal feels boring. A productive morning feels unrewarding. Getting a task done doesn't feel as good as it used to. You find yourself reaching for another snack not because you're hungry, but because your brain is desperately trying to feel something again. And you've been blaming yourself for this. You've told yourself you have no willpower. You've told yourself you're lazy. You've told yourself that other people just have better discipline than you do. But that is not the truth. The truth is that your neurological reward system has been hijacked by food products that were designed with precision to do exactly this. Now here's the next layer. And this one hits differently because it's not just about how you feel in the moment. It's about who you are becoming over time. Your brain has something called the prefrontal cortex. This is the part responsible for planning, problem-solving, emotional regulation, complex thinking, and impulse control. Essentially everything that makes you function as the person you want to be. Research from some of the world's leading neuroscience institutions has shown that chronically high sugar intake, which is embedded in almost every processed snack whether it tastes sweet or not, causes inflammation in the brain. And that inflammation directly impairs the prefrontal cortex. So when you're struggling to make decisions, when you're snapping at people you love over small things, when you sit down to work on something important and your brain just refuses to cooperate, when you feel emotionally overwhelmed by things that shouldn't overwhelm you, part of what is happening is biological. Your prefrontal cortex is operating in a state of chronic inflammation because of what you've been consuming, often without even realizing the connection. Let me paint a fuller picture because I want you to really feel what this costs you. Think about the last time you had a really sharp mental day. Maybe it was a long time ago, maybe you can barely remember it, but there was probably a day where things just clicked, where your focus was clear, your thinking was fast, your creativity was flowing, and you moved through your tasks with energy and confidence. That is what your brain is actually capable of. That is your baseline, and that baseline has been steadily eroded. Not overnight, slowly, quietly, meal by meal, snack by snack, year by year. That erosion costs you real things. It costs you time because you take twice as long to do work that should be simple. Studies suggest that cognitive impairment from poor nutrition can reduce your productive output by as much as 20% or more. That is almost a full day of your work week just gone. Banished into brain fog, it costs you opportunities because when your thinking is slow and your confidence is low, you don't speak up, you don't pitch the idea, you don't ask for what you want, and it costs you relationships. Because when your emotional regulation is impaired by neuroinflammation, you react instead of respond, you withdraw instead of connect, you feel irritable and distant, and you don't even fully understand why. Most people will read about nutrition their whole lives and never connect these specific dots. You're connecting them right now. Hold on to that. Now let's flip this completely. Because this is where everything changes. When you actually feed your brain what it was designed to run on, the transformation is not subtle. It's not gradual. People who shift away from processed food and toward real nutrition consistently report that within days, sometimes within 72 hours, something shifts in their mental clarity that they describe as waking up, not metaphorically. Literally feeling like a fog they didn't even know is there suddenly lifts. This happens because your gut microbiome, which produces about 90% of your body's serotonin and directly communicates with your brain through something called the gut-brain axis, begins to rebalance rapidly when inflammatory processed ingredients are removed. Your dopamine receptors start to upregulate again. They begin recovering their sensitivity, and suddenly things that were flat start to feel rewarding again. Work feels satisfying. Rest feels restorative. Focus returns like a muscle you forgot you had. Your prefrontal cortex, freed from constant inflammation, starts operating closer to its actual capacity. And when that happens, the version of you that you've been trying to be through sheer willpower suddenly becomes accessible through clarity. You don't have to force yourself as hard. You don't have to white-knuckle through the day. You think more clearly, you decide more quickly, you handle pressure with more grace, and you feel more like yourself than you have in years. Think about what that is worth. Not in motivational poster language. In actual real-world terms. If you recover even 1 hour per day of genuine cognitive performance, that is 365 hours per year. That is over 2 months of full working days. That is the time to build something new, to finally finish what you've started, to show up differently for the people who depend on you. That is not a small number. That is a life-changing number. And it is sitting on the other side of a nutritional shift that most people are not making because no one has ever laid it out for them this clearly. Here is something that separates people who change from people who stay stuck. The people who change are not necessarily more motivated. They are not more disciplined. They are not more special. What they have is information that connects to them personally, combined with a structure that removes the guesswork. Because guesswork is where good intentions go to die. You can want to eat better. You can know you should eat better. But if you don't know specifically what your brain needs, in what combinations, in what timing, and why it matters enough to keep going when life gets busy and chips are right there on the counter, then wanting and knowing won't be enough. And they haven't been, because if they had been, you'd have already changed. This is not about discipline. This is about design. When you have the right design, doing the right thing becomes easy. When you don't have it, even the most disciplined person eventually exhausts themselves trying to fight an uphill battle with no map. The program linked in the description is built around exactly this. It has already helped thousands of people cut through the confusion, stop the cycle of reaching for things that sabotage their brain, and start experiencing what real mental clarity actually feels like. Not tomorrow, not 6 months from now, fast. Because the brain responds faster than most people expect when you give it what it actually needs. Most people wait. They think they'll start when it's a better time. They think they'll figure it out on their own eventually. And every single day they wait is another day of cognitive performance they are never getting back. The program is available right now. But you know yourself. If you don't act on this when it matters to you, you won't act on it. And 6 months from now, you'll still be in that 2 p.m. slump wondering why your brain won't cooperate. Click the link in the description. Do it now while this is real for you. That version of yourself you keep glimpsing in your best moments is not out of reach. It is one decision away. Make it